So you're almost a year into your tenure now as CEO of AWS, and you took over from Andy Jassy, who turned it into a juggernaut and is now your boss. Have the day one jitters wore off, or is the pressure still on?
Well, my day one jitters were back in 2005. I actually came to Amazon to help start up AWS alongside Andy in 2005. That was about a year before we started serving paying customers.
Right, this is before people knew what AWS even was.
Yes, and I got asked a lot back then, what does this have to do with selling books? And of course the answer was, it's got nothing to do with selling books, but the technology we use to sell books has everything to do with building these services that both Amazon as well as every external organization in the world needs. So I had 11 years at AWS, unexpectedly found myself leaving for 4.5 years to be the CEO of Tableau, and then had an opportunity to come back, as you said, almost a year ago, this time as CEO of AWS. So it's been fantastic to be back. There's been a lot that's familiar. Of course, there's also things that are new, given how much AWS has grown. So it's a great combination of the familiar and new learning experience for me.
You last told me it is still early days for the cloud, even though you joined AWS those many years ago. FMI now predicting the cloud computing market could hit $1.9 trillion by 2032. I've seen estimates that pegs AWS at 40% of the infrastructure market. Does that percentage go up or down in 10 years?
Well, it's so true that we really are still at the very beginning of cloud adoption. Depending on which estimates you believe, we might be at 5% or as high as 15% of IT workloads moving to the cloud. So now there's a lot of dollars spent on IT, so there's been a fair amount of movement. But in percentage terms, the vast majority of big enterprise workloads are still to move. And I think that if we do our job, if we do the best at understanding customers and then rapidly innovating and rapidly building what they need, and of course being highly secure and highly available, then I think our segment share should absolutely be able to be maintained or potentially even increased. But that'll be a question of how well we can do our jobs.
AWS had two pretty big outages late last year, each with its own lessons. How much does that hurt if it means customers going to Microsoft or Google instead, or maybe choosing multiple cloud providers?
Well, availability is absolutely critical. I mean, our first priority is always security, and immediately following that, operational performance, including availability. And overall, if you look at the 16-year operating history of AWS, and even if you look at shorter periods, the last year, the last 3 years, we've been highly reliable, we've been highly available, we've had better availability track records than other large cloud providers, certainly better than really any enterprise I've talked to has been able to achieve in their own data centers.
So any evidence you've lost customers as a result of those
No,
outages?
We've had a lot of conversations. I mean, we had a couple days, of course, in December, which were not good operational days, and we own that, by the way. We don't run away from that, and we learn from them and have been really trying to take whatever lessons we could to make ourselves even more reliable. But as we've talked to customers, they've really all understood that while we don't like what happened on a day like that at all, because if our customers hurt, we feel the hurt too. That we really have a very strong track record, and that keeps the partnership strong.
People have been asking for years whether AWS should be spun off from Amazon. Do you spend any time thinking about this or thinking about the hypothetical benefits?
Really only with folks like you, as it turns out. No, honestly not. We have no current plans to spin out AWS. We think that our customers are very well served by having AWS be a part of Amazon. In fact, an increasing number of the conversations I have with particularly big enterprises, they want to make use of the capabilities that Amazon has across the company, whether it's energy companies wanting to sell us power, whether it's auto manufacturers who have electric vehicles that we need for our delivery fleets, whether it's telcos who want to deliver 5G-enabled services to their consumers around things like entertainment and Amazon Prime Video.
Okay, but Andy Jassy might have said he never thought about a stock split. And recent events show that even in this environment, sometimes we have to revisit those sacred cows. Has the idea of a split ever come up in a conversation with Andy or Jeff?
It's really not a topic of conversation. We're very squarely focused on the way we're operating today. We honestly do not have any plans of which I'm aware to really entertain a split off of AWS. We think the way that we're organized now is actually very good for customers.
That said, the market is changing. Valuations are dropping if you look at what's happening in the macro environment. How is this impacting your strategy around acquisitions? We've seen Microsoft be really opportunistic.
Well, we've very consistently done acquisitions over really the whole history of AWS. I'd say that overall our strategy has been to do smaller tuck-in acquisitions. Part of that is because we're trying to build a complete infrastructure platform, and we want the whole thing to operate as a single platform. And I think sometimes these big, bold acquisitions don't end up working very well technically, and they don't integrate well for customers. So we're very open to acquisitions of all sizes. We're very willing to be aggressive if the right opportunity presents itself. To us, it is always starts with, is it a great thing for customers? Can we integrate it really well? And then valuations would only even come into play and only even be a question if we like the answers to how does it fit from a business and customer perspective.
All right, we're here with AWS CEO Adam Selipsky. Speaking of that, there's a lot of noise happening elsewhere in the tech industry. I'm curious what you think of this spat between Twitter and Elon Musk.
I've been pretty focused on my own knitting. I haven't had any time to follow that any more than a casual spectator in the news. It certainly makes for interesting watching, but honestly don't know much more about it than that.
But casual spectators often point out that Amazon doesn't really have a social play. Does Amazon need a social play? Could a Twitter make sense?
Well, that I don't know, but we certainly, a big part of all of Amazon's businesses and our strategy in the different businesses revolve around partners and our ecosystem. It's certainly true in AWS. It's true in other parts of the business as well. So we're very close to many companies with a very strong social presence, be it as AWS customers or in our retail business for customer acquisition and customer messaging, doing more and more in the retail business with the shopping experience using social channels. So we're very intertwined with social media companies, and I would imagine across all of our business we'll continue to be closely intertwined. One
of those is Meta, which recently picked Amazon as its long-term cloud provider. I'm curious if Meta is just giving you a piece of their business or if this is a step towards them getting out of their own data center business. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you have to ask them that. But we've been working with them for quite a while, but we and they did announce recently that they were doing a significant amount of their machine learning workloads on AWS, and we'll be doing more of that going forward. And we really love that as the next development in our long-term partnership with them. I do think there's a lot of things that we can do with companies like that together. The economics, the agility, the flexibility of operating in the cloud are just so strong and powerful. And even for large, sophisticated, cost-effective companies, there's still a lot of benefits to operating in the cloud. How much companies like that move to the cloud, move to AWS, will be a function of how well do we understand and anticipate their needs, and how well can we build in a way that's really effective for them for their own customer acquisition and retention. There's a lot of new exciting technologies out there. Andy recently said that Amazon could potentially sell NFTs in the future. How do you think about NFTs, blockchain, Web3, the Metaverse? Where's the opportunity there for AWS? Where do you want to play? Boy, there's just a lot of buzzwords in that sense, aren't there?
There are, and yeah. So we're wondering what the actual market opportunity is.
Well, fundamentally, what we want to do is to enable all of the underlying technologies that our customers, that AWS customers need to build all of those things, to build the Metaverse, to build 3D computing, to build blockchain and cryptocurrency applications. And we're currently doing that. So if you look at, gaming companies are often where people start when they talk about, quote-unquote Metaverse companies. And if you look at companies like Riot Games, if you look at Epic, they're both very deep AWS customers. If you look at Meta, which is of course even had a name change, we're doing more with them over time, which is really gratifying. And so we also do a lot. We have blockchain services, and if you look at things like Ethereum, 25% of Ethereum workloads in the world run on AWS. AWS. So we're doing more and more around blockchain, around ledger technology, around 3D and spatial computing, which is going to be an important part of the metaverse. And the AWS strategy is to really, again, try and be as far out ahead of where those emerging metaverse company demands and blockchain and cryptocurrency customer demands are going to be, and to deliver really great innovative services.
Here with AWS CEO Adam Selipsky, AWS has said you're no longer accepting new customers in Russia or Belarus. Is that permanent?
I don't think we've made any statement about timing on that. First, let me say that obviously the Russian invasion of Ukraine is deeply disturbing to so many, and we really stand in solidarity with the people in Ukraine as well as those affected around the world. As a company, we're trying to do so many things, whatever we can think of to help. So Amazon has set up 2 large humanitarian hubs, really taking advantage of our distribution and warehousing capabilities for refugees, both in Europe. And we've also donated millions of dollars as a company, flat-out donations, matching employee contributions. AWS has set aside currently $15 million of AWS credits for companies involved in the relief efforts there. We're also significantly involved in online and cybersecurity efforts with various governments and countries around the world. And as part of that, we did say that we're not going to I should also add, by the way, that AWS has no infrastructure in Russia, no data centers, no employees, and I've had a long-standing policy not to do business with the Russian government.
Now, Earth Day is just days away, and you're announcing big renewable energy buys. Your competitors are also upping the ante here. What's going to be the benchmark that really sets Amazon apart?
Well, I personally believe that climate change is the issue of our generation, and I'm really excited and gratified that Amazon is really trying to take a leadership position on sustainability. In 2019, we co-founded the Climate Pledge, which is a pledge to be net carbon zero by 2040, which is 10 years ahead of the Paris Accords. And of course, we have a lot to deliver in interim milestones on the way there. So one of the big ones is we intend to be 100% renewable energy by 2025. And we're already well over 2/3 of the way there. We are the largest corporate purchaser of renewable energy on the planet. And in fact, today, we announced 37 new power projects around the world, from the US to France to Spain to Dubai, bringing us to well over 100 renewable energy projects around the world. And when all of those come online, we will be powering the equivalent of 3.9 million US homes with clean energy.
Right. You also just announced a new accelerator to support diverse founders, and Amazon over the years has had some struggles with the perceptions around how you treat equity. You're now doing a racial equity audit. You face lawsuits about discrimination. I know you're doing new things to fight employee turnover, reevaluating salaries. You just did the stock split. As you've explored the company more in depth over the last year, what do you see in terms of Amazon culture? Do you see anything that needs to change or evolve?
Well, we always see things about every single thing that we do which make us restless and dissatisfied, and those are characteristics of builders and innovators. And we never take for granted who we are or how we behave, and we always think there's room for improvement. And we're very vocally self-critical about that. In this particular area, I'm very proud that Amazon's doing a lot of things to try and strive to be Earth's best employer, and to try and promote equity and equality and diversity and inclusion in a lot of different ways in the workplace, including, as you said, we'll be doing a racial equity audit, which will be done independently by outsiders, including Loretta Lynch, the former U.S. Attorney General. And I'm very happy to see those kinds of efforts happening around the company. AWS today announced the AWS Impact Accelerator, which is a multi-year $30 million initiative to basically provide all sorts of resources and at the pre-seed stage to founders of underrepresented groups. So we're going to start out with black founders in a cohort. Later on this year, we will do a cohort of women founders, and it'll be not only AWS credits, it'll be actual cash, it'll be mentorship on an ongoing basis, it'll be access to experts, the opportunity to pitch investors, and really a full partnership and embrace to help them along their journey.
Good to hear. Last quick question, 30 seconds. You just signed, a number of new big customers from NASDAQ. You've got Best Buy. Who's next on your wish list? Who's the big fish, given that you've caught so many?
Well, as we discussed before, it is still early days in the cloud. So while we are the leader by a significant margin, I think that the majority of large enterprise workloads have yet to move to the cloud. So I think what you'll see is, even though there are a number who are all in on AWS today, there are a number who are still quite early in their journey. And so I think what you'll see across industries, whether it's financial services, automotive, telco, I think you'll see these big fundamental enterprise workloads over the next few years move to the cloud. And our intention is to do our jobs and have AWS be the place where they want to move.